Hey everyone. Sometimes being LGBTQ+ can be hard, but it's always nice to know that there's a tiny percentage of media to look forward to in which we don't die. Yeah, well, I guess that's a bit morbid, but it's a sad trope that queer people often die or don't exist at all in media. So I've compiled a list of my favorite media representation of queer people that either don't get much recognition or are so exceptional they must be mentioned, in no particular order. Wait, did you say gay rugby players? And guitars? Hell yeah, sign me up! Handsome Devil is the story of this gay high school teen in one of those British boarding schools where they wear Harry Potter ties. He gets a new rugby playing roommate, and they bond over music, and it deals with some heavy stuff like homophobia, but it all works out in the end, and Andrew Scott is in there to make us smile. It's a good, comfy movie overall that I wouldn't say is super profound, but it's just a nice, enjoyable film. Okay, Junipero from Black Mirror is like the greatest episode of anything I've ever seen ever because honestly, just my feelings, it's like a feeling powerhouse, okay? For people who don't know what Black Mirror is, it's kind of like the Twilight Zone, so each episode is standalone, so basically you can watch Junipero, and it would be its own thing really. It's like a mini movie, but it's basically about these two girls, who meet in like a simulation thing and they fall in love, and I don't really want to say that much because there's it's like a twist and stuff, but it's so good, it's so aesthetic, like 80s music and pink lights and like dorky girl and fun-spirited girl together and freaking by the beach, and vaporwave plays in the background as they drive in the dark and then they go to their house. Also, the rest of Black Mirror is pretty good. Wait, did I say that we die a lot in media? Oh yeah, well that sucks.
We've been together for 9 months.
10 months.
9 months.
10 months.
9
10 months.
But at the time Falsettos was created, it was necessary to tell the story of those who suffered from HIV/AIDS, a subject that overlaps with the queer community in a definite way.
All I want is you.
Don't start crying on me, people. It's a great musical. It's basically the story of this guy Marvin who leaves his wife, Trina, to be with his lover, Wizard, while at the same time trying to maintain his family life. The music is sweet, catchy, and heartbreaking, and the 2016 revival had me praising Andrew Rannells' costume designer. I guess, you can't really see the musical, but the soundtrack is on YouTube, and there are plenty of pro shoots that you can stream legally. So I've never been a fan of movies where people are just sitting and talking about orange juice, but the way he looks was able to pull this style off. I found that watching this with straight people isn't as engaging for them because they can't actually really get into the gay romance, but when I watched it alone for the first time, don't judge me, it was actually really engaging. It's a good example of positive LGBTQ+ media that, while showing the struggles of identity, ends on a happy and hopeful note. I've never been one to stumble into the young adult section of Barnes & Nobles, because I'm usually in the Byzantine sociology section or something, but one day I was feeling like a teeny bopper and walked on in there. Out of the corner of my eye I saw a Tumblr-esque looking drawing of two white dudes and thought, that screams homoeroticism. I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of people describe this book as the gay Harry Potter, and yeah. But it stands out on its own as a book about a powerful wizard that falls in love with a vampire, while having a plot that doesn't center around them being gay. I think it had a good balance of showing the exploration of the character's sexuality, and at the same time having a plot beyond that, which is rare in a lot of queer media. Fun Home is a musical and a comic about a lesbian who is recounting her discovery to identifying as a lesbian, and at the time discovering her dad was also in the closet about his own sexuality, and it's really sad. The music is beautiful, and Changing My Major was my favorite song for like a month.
I'm changing my major to sex with Joan.
It's totally cool, and I can totally relate to that awkward phase of discovering your sexuality that Allison goes through. Oh yeah, and it's based on the author's life. And it won the Tony for Best Musical. Now, the serious business movies all deserve love, but there are too many gay movies that are in this sort of category to have their own spot on the list, so I'm just gonna name some quick, great movies to watch at 3 a.m. alone on Saturday night. Trust me, this movie is not a bunch of people talking and crying and sadness. It is really intense and beautiful, and it's about poverty and race and sexuality and identity. I was very invested in this film when I saw it, and it was very touching. Don't put it off because you think it's boring, because it's not. It's so good, guys. It's so good. Sean Penn was good. Yeah, this movie was good. It's about the first openly gay office holder, in San Francisco, of course. His name's Harvey Milk. You probably know him because, you know, Harvey Milk. While some gay movies have their habit of being mumblecore, this was a full-on entertaining flick. This one was a little bit mumbly, but it was definitely worth the watch. I love the aesthetic of gay/bi teens in the 1960s, so this movie was right for me, and might be right for you too. It's your basic forbidden gay love story, but it's still an example of filmmaking done well. Like I said, gay people in the 60s is my aesthetic, so this movie was very aesthetic. I love this movie. It's a little slow in the beginning, but it sucked me in right after that. It's about a gay college professor whose lover had just passed away and is now dealing with the distress of this trauma. Definite content warning, but a powerful film. So, I love James Baldwin, okay? He's the guy I would paint a portrait of and hang on my wall so people can ask me, who's that guy? And I can say, that's James Baldwin, the love of my life. Giovanni's Room is my favorite book. It's about this dude who goes to Europe and starts a love affair with this guy called Giovanni. It was revolutionary at the time because it was published in 1956, when LGBT plus media was a lot scarcer than today. The descriptions are poignant yet minimalistic, and so profound in a few words. Also, gay people in the 50s is pretty aesthetic. Alright, so, as a not white person, the show was a little too light, and also kind of dated and, you know, kind of problematic in some ways, but it is a part of queer history in some ways. When I first watched it, I thought it was dumb. I mean, the intro. So I gave up on it for a little while and revisited it, and I was, like, drawn into it. It was like a soap opera. It's a show about the stories of these gay guys in probably Philadelphia, but I'm too lazy to Google it. It's not the greatest, but it's damn entertaining. I'd recommend for those 3 a.m. binges. Number 1, total content warning for this one. This one is really heavy. This movie's about the story of the real life of Brandon Tina, who later became the victim of a violent hate crime. This story is absolutely heartbreaking, and if you can handle it, it is an absolute must-watch. It is such a good and powerful movie, and I've probably watched it 1,000 times. It is a true glimpse at some of the worst transphobia can be. Brokeback Mountain, my old friend and a classic. I first watched this movie when I was 12, when I rented it with my dad on Netflix DVD. I really liked pretending to go get water during the tense scene so I didn't have to look my dad in the eye afterwards. Brokeback Mountain is a revolutionary movie. Not that it was the first LGBT plus centered movie, it was just the first that received such acclaim and attention, and it came at a good time for the LGBTQ plus rights movement. This movie about 2 men who engage in a love affair in the 60s, my aesthetic basically, gave a lot of people a different perspective on LGBTQ plus issues. It changed a lot of hearts at a time when those hearts were votes for marriage equality, and besides being important in our history, it is also a very, very good movie. I'm sure a lot of people who are in the circle know about Transparent, but for good reason. It's an amazing show, and although there is some iffiness about the trans character being played by a cisgender actor, a lot of trans people say that the portrayal of the trans experience is pretty accurate. It gets a bit mumblecore at times, but, you know, the mumbleness adds to the realism. So I watched this movie alone, not because I'm ashamed of blue-haired women, but because there is very graphic intercourse between the women. Others might not see the artistic merit, but I thought it was a fine movie. It's a nice movie about a woman who falls in love with another woman and her discovering her identity and such. I like it. Make sure the people you watch it with are comfortable with the content. And now for the ones that I haven't watched, but are on my list, and I checked their Rotten Tomatoes score, so they're probably at least okay, and also somebody told me they're good. Tangerine, a movie about a trans sex worker that is actually played by a trans woman, which is good. The Wedding Banquet, from the director of Brokeback Mountain, a funny-ish story about a gay man putting on a fake wedding with a woman. Happy Together, a movie about 2 guys who love each other, but then things happen. I don't know, I just read the Wikipedia summary, but I've heard good things about this movie. Call Me By Your Name, in theaters now, but I guess not in any theater near Alex, and Alex hates his life. Carol, a married woman and a department store clerk start a relationship, and it's about gays in the 50s, so that's really aesthetic. Ben and Arthur, the greatest movie ever made.
I'm gay. I've already told you that.
Then
I'll be gay too, and then that'll make it right for us to get married again, huh?
And now for some quick honorable mentions of things, like story arcs and stuff. Adam Torres' arc on the show Degrassi. That one episode from Torchwood where they go back in time and Jack Harkness fall in love. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for acknowledging the bisexuals and having the greatest song about bisexuals ever made.
I'm getting by.
Ellen. Because Ellen. Will and Grace is hilarious, but I haven't seen enough of it. This has been Alex's favorite queer media / things people should know about. I hope you enjoyed my scattered list thing, and in the future, when I watch more gay things, I'll definitely make another. If you like videos like this, smash that like button, woo!